Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I am going to be showing you how to create a card with Butterfly Brilliance stamps. I have been featuring these stamps as my product of the week this week, or my stamp set of the week this week. And all that means is that I've been creating with this stamp set, or at least my plan is to create with the stamp set all week. I have gotten a little sidetracked this week. I forgot that the stamp set of the week was Butterfly Brilliance, and I accidentally made a couple of cards with the coordinating Brilliant Wings dies, and I didn't stamp any with the stamp set that coordinates for those two cards. So sorry about that. I get excited about my butterflies, and I love these dies as much as I love the stamps. But the card I'm making today, it is actually with the stamps. And the reason why I do a stamp set of the week now is because, one, it kind of helps me focus, but also I thought it might help you because it gives you more ideas of things to do with these stamp sets instead of just getting them. I know in the past I've gotten a stamp set because of one card that I saw, and it made me think, oh, that would be fun to do, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do with it now? So I'm trying to help you a little bit with that and show you different ways you can use these stamps, and you can always change the colors or the layouts to suit your style and your taste, but hopefully I'm giving you something to inspire you a little bit with all these different cards. Okay, so something new that I'm going to be using this week is this Stampin' Up! Masking paper, and I am loving this stuff, y'all. So it is stampable, it is removable, you take the backing off of it, you can fold it in half and just take the backing off of it that way. It comes in 5x7 sheets, and you get 12 sheets per pack. So it's really handy, and you can cut it just like you cut any kind of paper or cardstock. I use my paper trimmer to trim this down. This is 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches, I think. I really wasn't worried about the width of this bottom piece. I was just worried, I just wanted to make sure it was tall enough. So it's 5.5 inches, and then this one was just cut off at the side of this, so it is, I believe, 3/4 inch. Again, I wasn't real worried about the width, but the height is 5.5 inches. And you can also use punches or dies if you want to do that. So in the past, before Stampin' Up! Had this, I always just used Post-it notes, which works great. But the Post-it notes are not all over sticky, and so sometimes it would slip, and I would end up with ink where I didn't want it. So I love this because the whole thing is sticky, it's easy to remove, and I don't have to worry about my ink getting where I don't want it. So I'm going to start with a piece of 5.25 by 4 inch piece of cardstock. I'm just lining it up in no certain way here. I just want it lined up with these grid marks on my Stamparatus, because what I want to do is use this masking paper to line this up with that edge right there. So I'm blocking off just 1/4 inch on the edge of this cardstock. So now I don't need this anymore. And then I'm going to take this, since I cut a piece off the edge, I'm just taking the smaller backing off. That way I can cut off this part later, and then I'll have this to use again. So what I'm going to do is block off 1 3/4 inch with this piece. So there's 1 inch, there's 3/4 inch. There we go. And now I'm going to take my handy blending brush, and I'm going to start with Pacific Point. And I'm just going to add some ink. I'm going to dab off on my grid paper here. And I'm going to add some of this ink to to this strip here. A little bit of a mess up there, but that's okay, we'll cover that. So now I'm going to use a little bit of Starry Sky, and I'm using the same blending brush. I started with my lighter blue, and I'm working up to my darkest blue. So a tip I heard from somebody that's been using these more than me is that if you use them for one single color family, like I use this one for all my blues, then you can keep using it over and over without cleaning it. And that way the more saturated it gets, the more color you'll be able to lay down easier without having to load it up with ink quite so much. So I love the way these blues swirl together like that. They just blend and complement each other nicely. So my last blue, of course, is not of navy. Old trusty knot of navy. I use this color a lot. It looks so good with other blues, with pinks and greens. It really, you really can't go wrong with a knot of navy. It's a good neutral color that goes with just about everything. Okay, and you can put as much or as little color on that as you want. You can even pull up a corner of that tape and see if you want to maybe add a little bit more, or if you're good where you're at. I think that that is going to be enough for me. Just wanted a fun strip of blue right there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is carefully pull off this tape. See how crisp that line is? This stuff is amazing. There we go. So one thing I am going to do is I'm going to keep a couple of small pieces of that handy. Make sure I don't have blue all over my fingers. So it's best to peel this off pretty slow. You don't want to just rip it off. You want to make sure you're getting all of the paper off. And it does wrinkle up again, so I won't be able to use this part, but all of this that I didn't pull the backing off of, I'll easily be able to use that. And I used more than I absolutely needed because I can be messy with blending brushes, and I wanted to make sure I didn't have any ink over off on this side. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want to stamp just these stamps, or just these 3 butterflies over this this strip. So I'm just going to make sure those are lined up nicely. Right, this one is going to hang off a little. Want it hanging off a little bit, not too much. Oh yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, so now going to take those little pieces and I'm going to put them back here. I'm not using my magnets here because, and I also don't need my mat. Since this is a cling stamp, I don't need this. So I'm not using my magnets because there's just so much butterfly. I could put one, and I'll go ahead and put one right here. But mostly I'm hanging on to this. So now what I'm going to do is take my Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm going to pull this over so you can see what I'm doing. So you want to make sure you're inking these butterflies that are going to go right here on top of your strip of blue. And just ink them one at a time. You can kind of see what you're doing here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here, but I can see the edge of my stamp pad and make sure that I'm not inking the wrong butterfly. And I'm not worried about getting just a whole lot of ink on here because since it's on my Stamparatus, I can re-stamp as many times as I need to get a nice dark solid image. So I'm gently pulling out. Let's see what we got. Okay, that looks good, but I do want it a little bit darker. If I didn't have the Stamparatus, I would be happy with that. But since I do have the Stamparatus, why not make it a little darker, right? You don't have to have the Stamparatus for this butterfly stamp. It's handy because it's such a big stamp. And of course, with bigger stamps, you do run the risk more of having a gap where your ink should be, but also it's just easier to handle with it on the Stamparatus. We do have a clear block that is plenty big for this one. I would show you mine, but I'm using it to hold one of my cameras. I have a camera clipped to it, so I can't really show it to you right now. Sorry about that. Okay, so again, I'm gently pulling out, so I'm stamping in exactly the same place. There we go. I think that looks good. Actually, see, this is why I wasn't using the magnet. It did skip a little place right here in the wing, but I moved this paper when I moved the magnet off, so I'm not even gonna mess with that. So my recommendation would be, don't use the magnet to hold your cardstock down, but do use the magnet over here on the side just to hold your grid paper down so you don't move it when you're doing this. Okay, so I'm going to keep that black ink out for just a minute because I'm going to now grab, I'm not sure which one. I love these go-to greeting stamps. They have just hello and just a note, but there's also thank you, thinking of you, happy birthday, and I love that they're in all different sizes and gorgeous fonts. I haven't used them all yet. I've been using the smaller ones so far. Let's see if this thinking of you will fit. I do believe it will. It's a little big, but not too big. I think it'll fit in that spot, and I like that it's going over the whole thing. So let me grab my top plate, and I'm just going to use it to pick that stamp up. And then, of course, I'm going to ink it with that same black ink. Then I'm going to go over it again and make sure on these cling stamps you can see where I messed up a little bit and I didn't go back and make sure that my edges of my cling stamp were totally clean. I ended up getting a little bit of a black halo right here, which I don't love. Okay, so this piece again was 5 1/4 by 4 inches. This piece is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And then, of course, I have a card base. It's 5.5. Nope. Yes, it's 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, and then it's scored at 4 1/4 inches. So there's different things that you could do here. You could also put this, and I may do that. Let's see. Okay, so this is big enough for that to go on. I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp again. And once again, I forgot to make sure I don't have that halo around it. Let's see what happens. Okay. So I usually have paper towels or microfiber cloth at my desk, and yesterday I cleaned up everything around here and I forgot to grab another one, so I'm just using my finger to make sure that there's no ink just right here around the edge of this before I stamped it back down. Alright, so I like the way that looks. So I'm now going to just cut this at 1 inch. And then you could put it right there, but I think no, that is too big. So let's do this. I'm going to cut it much smaller. See if you can see. So I'm going to go right up to the edge. I'm not even measuring. I'm just having the letters, the very top of the letters, let's see if you can see this, is right on the edge of where that gap is. So I don't have it in the gap because I don't want to cut off my letters. But I'm cutting it very, very close, and that's my guide, so it stays pretty even all the way around. That is pretty tight. So it covers up just about all of it. So I think now what I'm going to do is get a scrap of black, and that way I can mat it and then it'll be perfect. So this measures almost 2.5 inches by it looks like 5/8 of an inch. So I'm gonna measure it 2 and okay, so I'm gonna cut 2 1/8 of an inch. Just kidding, I'm cutting 2 1/16 of an inch. And then this way, I'm gonna cut 3/4 of an inch. So, if y'all been watching my videos, you know I almost always make some kind of an oopsie on these videos, but I promise you, I really can make a card without messing up. I just can't do it when people are watching, evidently. Okay, or when I know people are going to be watching. There we go. That perfectly covers that up, and I like the way it looks, so I hope you do too. It wasn't the original plan, but it worked out. Okay, so up here I'm just going to put a couple of dots just to kind of even out the card a little bit, since there's so much everywhere else, then you have that big empty place. Actually, no. I'm going to put my dots like this, and then I can put this one right here where that magnet was, and so I missed stamping. Whew, figured it out. So I hope that you see with my mistakes that everything is fixable, and we all make mistakes, and it's absolutely okay. It's not what stamping is all about, but it is okay. Stamping has taught me that it is okay to make mistakes, that is what makes all of these cards one-of-a-kind creations. You won't have two handmade cards that are exactly the same. They'll be close, but not exactly the same, and a lot of times we can learn, and it's an opportunity to get so much more creative with our card making and our paper crafting when we do make a mistake, and it's just fun to incorporate that into our card or find a unique way to cover it up. And it's taught me to use that in life too, to not stress out so bad whenever things don't go exactly how I planned. It's okay, and just learn from it and have fun adapting with it and move on. So I hope that y'all get a little bit out of these videos, and I hope that you don't get too frustrated with me whenever I do make these mistakes, and just grin and go with it. Alright, y'all. So I hope you're enjoying these butterfly stamps as much as I am. I have no idea what my stamp set of the week next week will be, but I think it's probably going to be something from Celebration, because I'm really excited that Celebration is starting tomorrow. And Celebration is just where you get a Celebration brochure, or you can look at it on my store online, and you can pick a free product from that selection with a $50 order, or there's some at $100 order level. And so you can pick and choose, and you can get more than one. It runs for 2 months. And Celebration items, I think they're always fun, and I like to get as many as I can. I probably won't be able to get them all this time because a budget, bleh. But we've all got to live with that, especially right now with prices being so crazy. Anyway, y'all have a great weekend. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button if you liked this video and hung around to the end. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. Happy stamping.